and welcome back to Mornings Don't Have to Suck, your go-to AM motivation and mindset podcast to start your day without the dread. In the short time we have together, you might just learn something new about yourself and how to approach your day from a new and clever perspective. I am your host, Kaylin, founder of Live Your Clever Life Coaching, and we are going to jump right into it today. We're not going to waste any time. Also, reminder, if you're sleepy today, that's a-okay. I know this is a morning podcast and I rarely talk about it being in the morning because I find it's beneficial to not really focus on that. But if you're sleepy today, it's okay. We are not always going to be energetic humans, and it's a good thing to remember. So today we are going to focus on something that's, I guess you could pose it as hypothetical, but really it's just a question that I'm going to ask, and then we're going to kind of talk through some subsequent questions to see what comes up for you, where your mind goes, what ideas come up, and maybe what inspiration from your own thoughts you might get. So my question, I will pose it to you right now. What if you started taking more chances on yourself? And I know that sounds pretty cheesy and pretty basic, but truly ask yourself, what would happen if I started taking more chances on myself? Now, what do I mean by this? What do I mean by this, right? I mean, when you're faced with choices, when you're faced with opportunities, when you're faced with decisions, what if you started going the more risky route versus the safe route? Or what if you started going the more exciting route than the more peaceful route? Just some thoughts to kind of put in your mind as I guess, talk through this and you kind of determine what it means for you in your life. So thinking, what would happen if you stopped giving in to doubt that comes up when you're on the cusp of change? Now, this is something I read in a book. I'm trying to think of what book that was. I think it's The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. But essentially, oftentimes when we're on the cusp, if you will, of getting stronger, of leveling up, as people like to say, as you're about to kind of grow beyond where you're currently at, there's often a moment or several moments or a measurement of some time where doubt gets very loud, very amplified, and very you're going to fail if you do this, right? What happens if you don't listen to that? Now, the reason that I ask you that question is I will guarantee you that every person listening to this podcast at one time in their life has been faced with a decision and they let doubt decide it for them rather than them deciding for them. So take a moment as you're driving to work, doing your hair, eating your breakfast, sitting at your desk, on a walk. Start to reflect past couple years. Maybe it was when you were younger, maybe in your 20s, maybe you're in your 20s now, maybe you're in your 50s and you're thinking back. Wherever you're at, take a moment to reflect over a few years and think, what decisions did I make for me? And what decisions did I make out of fear and out of doubt? I think it is hard to approach that at first because in my mind, I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking right now, what example could I give? And I'm like, I don't really have one. But I can absolutely come up with one thinking about all the decisions that I've had to make in my life. So reflecting on your life, what jobs have you gotten and how did you decide to apply for them? If you went to college, what college did you go to and why? Did you go because you wanted to go there or did you go because you could afford it? Or did you go because you got in? Thoughts, right? Looking at your relationships and your friendships. Do you communicate clearly and how you feel? Or do you keep quiet because there's doubt that comes up because you don't want to hurt anybody or you don't want to, get in the way? There's a couple, approaches you can take to this, but start to analyze the life you've had so far and the years you've had so far and think about what decisions have been made in doubt. You might learn a little bit and you also might go, well, shoot, next time I'm going to try to be a little bit more cognizant of that because if it's up to me, I should not let my fear decide. I should not let my doubt decide. I should be the one to decide. So take a minute. You can pause me, mute me, whatever you need to do. Start to think about it and see what comes up. Maybe write it down. I love a good note or writing something down on a notepad or in your phone, in your notes app, just take a moment to think about it. Now, transitioning on, start to think about how many people in your life, whether it's family members, friends, potential partners, or partners, that you've taken chances on with no background knowledge, or maybe some background knowledge, right? How many times have you taken chances on other people? Because oftentimes it's a lot more than what you could count on these fingers, right? How many chances have you taken on other people in comparison to yourself? Because if it's 100 to 1, or if it's 10 to 1, or 50 to 1, we need to start giving ourselves a little bit more and taking more chances on ourselves and what we can do rather than what we can't do. So think about that, because I think this happens a lot in dating when you're trying to find a potential partner. It's so easy to be hopeful and to overlook certain things and to give people chances, even when they are very clearly telling you they don't really deserve any. Think about it. Think about your friends and your family members, family for sure, because sometimes people have relationships in their families that they feel like they don't really have a choice in them, right? So when a decision comes up, are you making the decision for you or for somebody else? Or have you given somebody that extra chance, but you haven't given yourself the chance? Things to think about. Just plopping stuff in your brain today to try to get you to seek a little bit perspective from your own experiences and reflect on why you've made certain decisions and see if that aligns with the life that you want to live today and later. And then lastly, I say lastly, but I'm going to ramble a little bit because I always do. But let's think about ways to take more chances on yourself, whether it's pushing your comfort zone or when that inner critic starts to get really loud. Are you talking back to it? Are you letting it defeat you? Are you fighting back against it with the truth? Because I think that is something that we don't often do. Maybe you're trying a new activity or trying to go and network and meet new people. Think about what you can do over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, setting a timeline with it and seeing more ways that you can take those chances on yourself. Maybe you've been waiting to do that, whatever that thing is. I know for a lot of people, it's start a business or apply for that job or go on that trip or whatever it might be. But there's always that thing in the way, or, oh, but I have, a plan that will include that later, or, oh, but I don't want to miss out on anything here. Or it's not the right moment, but I know it's coming soon, right? Maybe the moment is when you decide it is. So maybe right now is the time to take a chance on yourself. The reason I think a lot of us fight that is because when we are more willing to take chances on ourselves, it means that the life we have now is going to change. And I think it's very interesting that most of us fear change when the change is the thing that we crave the most, right? So take a moment, multiple moments, and start to think about what I talked about today. Start to reflect on how you've made decisions in the past and if they've been made with you in mind or if they've been made with doubt in mind. Based on how old you are too, I think you're going to get varying answers. I found, obviously, as I age, I feel that I understand myself a little bit more in some ways. And other ways, I'm like, why would I have done that? Like, that's so not the decision I would have made today. But as I often say on these, if you've been listening or if you are just starting to listen, one thing I say a lot is shame has no place here. So if you're reflecting and you're finding moments where you're like, ooh, or you're cringing or you're like, oh, that's terrible, please do not shame yourself. Just go, what? I didn't know any better. I was trying to survive then, just as I'm trying to survive now. But maybe now I have better tools, or maybe now I have better resources to get through it with more thought and intention. So I'll pose that question for you as you go about your day. What if you started taking more chances on yourself, and start to analyze what areas in your life you can start taking more chances on yourself? My last little plug or encouragement is if you are listening to this and you are considering starting a business or whatever it may be, do it. Do not wait. It's not as hard as you think it is. And here's what I mean. When I say it's not, I should say it's not as difficult. It is very simple to start a business. I had built it up in my head that I was going to have to climb this monstrous mountain of paperwork and logistics and all of that. It's actually pretty simple. There are apps for everything. There are people you can ask. There are mentors out there. So if you have an idea or you have a service that you want to bring to people and that you want to share with people, here is your sign to do it. You have no reason to wait. Fear and doubt, they're going to be there anyway, regardless of if you're ready or not. So go out and do it. Proud of you already for even thinking about it. So get out there, make it happen. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, is she talking to me? Yes, I am. I'm talking to you, directly to you. Go do it. Stop holding yourself back. You might surprise yourself, aka you will absolutely surprise yourself. And one thing I often say in my spin classes is be willing to surprise yourself, because the mind will create obstacles that are not there and that you don't need. So with that, have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Drink your water. Bring a little light to somebody near you. If this resonated with you or you know someone who it might resonate with, please send it. Please share it. We are in our sharing eras. We are giving resources to people who need them or who we think need them. Or if we enjoy something and it worked for us, sharing it. Sharing is caring. So have a wonderful day. I will see you back here very soon.